Hey all you Laszlos and Jackie Daytonas. I'm Dale Rodman Jr. III, and this is Slow to Pro, a YouTube series where I go from slow to definitely not pro yet. Today we are at Misano on low fuel motorsport for a 45-minute race with one mandatory pit stop where refueling is required but tires are not. We're starting off at the back in P27. So let's get this green flag underway and see if we can't have a better lap than we had at Zandvoort the other day. Lap 1 is tricky. It's always a question in my head as to if I should push through the first couple rows or stay back. And honestly, after Zandvoort, I'm well inclined to relax a bit, let the chaos sort them out. After all, we are running car number 24 in a field of 27. And if you're unfamiliar with low fuel motorsport or iRacing, they use the same system essentially. Your car number is basically your rank, so I wasn't expecting to have a better pace than many people in this lobby, but I was anticipating the wrecks on lap 1. So we're going to take it nice and easy, nice and slow, and give room for this BMW next to us to get by the spun car. Just got to play it smart sometimes. My focus on lap 1 is usually to just survive and don't damage the car. After lap 1, we replace survive with push and still try to not wreck the car. Quick note, in the bottom right you might notice a different camera angle. Let me know if you hate it, because if you just don't care, then neither do I. As we come here to turns 9 and 10, we got that white McLaren behind us, and he's going to start to play a game of just the tip with the pass here. And I guess I'm what the guys call, a hussy, because I just give it up on lap 1. You don't got to take me for lap 2. You put the tip in there, you get the whole thing, baby. No, but seriously, I don't trust the McLaren or myself to be running into this final sector on lap 1. If this were the final lap, I might be trying to hold an inside line to block his pass. But again, it's lap 1. This guy could have a drastically better pace, and the only guaranteed thing that'll happen from battling him is that it's going to slow us both down, and we could also wreck. Neither of those options sound worth it to me. Had a peek on the BMW there, couldn't make it stick, and again I let out of the throttle to just make sure we can tuck behind, because while side-by-side is exciting, it's also very, very slow, and I'm focused right now on trying to keep the gap down to the faster guys in front of us, so that way when they inevitably get their track limit penalties, hopefully we'll be close enough to be able to gobble them up as they roll through the pits. We're going to go ahead and take a peek up the inside of the BMW. We're not actually alongside him yet, so just hoping he yields, and he did. If he had taken his normal racing line there, he would have had every right to it, and I would have had to let out to accommodate. But he did yield to us, so now it's time to get to work on the Audi in front of us. And we can go ahead and skip ahead now to the end of lap 5, where we have finally caught this Audi. And while this battle begins to kick off, big shout out to you, Daniel, whatever you go by. Thanks for subscribing. I appreciate you. We're over the century mark now and steamrolling ahead, so I appreciate you. Also, another thing real quick, Daniel, Zealous Racing League has a 4-race series coming up called 4 Cars, 1 Cup. It's going to be the BMW M2 at Zandvoort, the new Porsche Cup at Brands Hatch, the new Lamborghini Super Trofeo at Misano, and finally the new Ferrari Challenge car at Imola. There's plenty of room for you to join, absolutely for free. No catch or anything weird like that. Check the link in the description to Zealous Racing League, and I'll see you on track on May 3rd. And back to the action on screen. Basically, all this Audi did was slow us down for 4 laps. Out of 28 total laps in the race that he completed, he only had 9 valid ones, and his fastest laps were the ones right here when I was right behind him. So not only is he all over the track, he's also 2, 3, 4... sometimes even 5 seconds slower per lap than I am. And he absolutely insists on blocking me every single time I get a little bit of a run. And right here is a perfect example. He covers the right hand side, the inside of the next turn. At this point, I've only been on his tail for a little bit, so I'm not bothered by his defense just yet. I'm not annoyed. But if we go ahead and skip ahead again several laps, I become frustrated enough to pit 15 minutes into the race just to get away from this psychopath trying to defend in the early stages of a race. For real, what the fuck are you thinking? We'll skip the pit stop, and I've got a question. Do you guys think it's a good idea to be running defensive lines to protect P18 early in a race? Leave a comment, let me know your opinion. If you ask me, it's just flat out stupid and you're asking for your race to be ruined. I mean, Seriously, do you really think you're going to defend your position for 30 straight minutes to a faster guy without him becoming frustrated enough to make a dive that costs you both a lot of time? If it were the last 5 minutes, I'd say it's worth the risk to run a defensive line. But if it isn't the last stretch of the race, you're only making the gap in front of you larger and the gap to the traffic behind smaller. In other words, you're only hurting yourself. So we left the pits in P25, down 6 positions from where we went in, but we've already cleared our mandatory pit stop, so we'll regain a bunch of those positions when everyone else starts to pit. The idea behind pitting early was the fact that the Audi was seriously slowing me down. So my hope was that if I pit a few laps early, I could make up that time, and then when that yellow Audi hits the pits, hopefully he'd come out behind us. And if we skip ahead, we fucking nailed it. Our strategy paid off. He comes out of the pits directly behind us, but cannot match our pace. So by the end of the first lap, by him following me, we're able to build the gap to over 1.5 seconds, and then it just continued to build lap by lap by lap until we finally lost him completely. There wasn't much action for the rest of the race up until the final lap where things got a tiny bit tense. Let's go ahead and skip ahead. Lexus did something, I don't know what. He rejoins right in front of me. I wish he would have waited, not because it wasn't a good rejoin, it was. Hats off to him. I would have just rather gotten another free position. Coming up into turn 1, I take an inside line because I wasn't sure if the Lexus had taken any damage. I was hoping for another mistake, but he holds his position, and because of that slow line, if you look in the mirror there, we've now got a purple and yellow McLaren on the tail of Dale. And it's at this point in the race that I really need to remind myself to focus on what's in front of me so I don't miss any braking points or make any easy mistakes. During the skip earlier, we ended up gaining 5 positions to go from P22 all the way up to P17. Every single one of those positions gained was either due to people clearing their mandatory pit stops or serving drive-through penalties. So the strategy that I had of playing it safe and pitting early has definitely paid off. And as we come up to turn 10 here, the McLaren behind us is going to get right on our tail, and I think it screws his exit speed up a little bit and allows the Audi to get right on his tail. The McLaren chooses to go inside there if you look in the bottom right, and then as the McLaren exits the fast turn, I think he runs a bit wide, slams into the Audi, and takes himself off the circuit. That's the danger of defensive driving, and that's why you save that shit for the final lap. But yeah, so we started out in 27th, finished 10 positions up in P17. I'll take that, especially considering we were ranked number 24 in this field. Anytime I finish higher than my car number, I'm happy. I'm a simple man. Next week, I'll have some action from Low Fuel Motorsport at Snetterton, maybe Spa, not sure yet. I'll also have the first race from Zealous Racing League's 4 Cars 1 Cup series in the BMW M2. But that's it for the action today. As always, thank you sincerely for watching Slow to Pro. I'm Dale Robin Jr. III. You guys have the kind of day you want to have.